the joys of youth. Ain't that great? That's the way I like it. The joys of youth. When we were younger, young minds are so easily manipulated and so easily molded. You wonder why they're so stupid. The youth of today, and how that magical moment when you go to school and you learn and you read and the teacher's there and you're there to take in all the knowledge. You parents, you send your children off to school. Go learn something. Tell me how you did today. Make sure you cross your T's and dot your fucking I's in that magical day when y'all went to school. Remember that? Well, I want you to take a look at some shit. This is the crap they teach your kids in school today. This is why you can't have an intellectual conversation with your child about anything. Because what you were taught is completely contrary, different. It's completely conflicting to what they're taught. Look at the first questions on the board. Let's look at those. Let's find out. They state that these killings, this mass murder, this massacre that happened in Boston was done, and that it was used as propaganda to start a movement, to start the Boston movement, to start the Revolutionary War. That these guns that shot these people were used as propaganda by Samuel Adams. Think about that for a minute. They used the murder of unarmed civilians protesting in the streets against being overly taxed and the hardships that they were taking in as propaganda. So, no mention of the little boy who was shot. First off, it says, and I quote, "A shot rang out." Who fired the shot? Well, definitely could have been the troops. They returned the fire. The troops then opened their fire. So who fucking shot the little boy? Oh, it must have been them dirty colonists. Those dirty fucking colonists who were causing such an uprising and such a violent harassment towards these armed soldiers that a gunfire was heard. Magically, the magic gunfire. It must have been shot at the same time JFK was shot. A magic was he hiding in the grassy knoll? Was the guy who did the shooting, this magical unicorn shot that was heard across the land, must have been hiding in the grassy knoll? That's where the shot was fired from. And then the soldiers went, "What the fuck? We're firing on the grassy knoll." And magically, the citizens, the colonists, got in front of the grassy knoll and said, "Don't shoot the grassy knoll." And they just ran. This is the greatest scheme I've ever... The way I am reading this, it states, and those dirty fucking colonists jumped in front of the bullets. And the man from the grassy knoll shot the little boy. That sound feasible to you? Is that the way you learned it? Did you learn that? First off, the citizens were not able to carry firearms. It wasn't like that. Take into consideration that these civilians, these people who were standing around protesting this, the people that were standing there protesting, these colonists were not allowed to own weaponry. They were not allowed to own guns. They could not carry them. And the military stayed with the colony. They lived there. They were ruled by the military. They lived in a military zone to make sure that there was no uprising. That's what the king wanted. That's what Britain wanted. The children are taught it was a form of harassment. These unarmed colonists were harassing these armed soldiers. Well, think about that for a minute. Put that in your fucking pipe and smoke it. That's why you can't have an intellectual conversation with anyone. That's the bullshit that they're feeding them. Then they turn around and they state that the colonists in Boston kept the British ships unloading their tea. That's how the Boston Tea Party was created. No, I say contraire moon frere. I say that we helped them unload. The colonists helped them unload that fucking tea in the fucking harbor. They didn't stop them from docking. They backed their fucking ship up and they docked it for them, and then they went ahead and unloaded it for them and threw it in the fucking ocean. That's how that Boston Tea Party happened. It is no wonder in my mind why you have a generation of young adults thinking they should be like Britain. That's why they think they should. That's why they stand around and go, we should be more like Britain. That's why. Because they're taught that their country and that their heroes and that their legendary people who lived in their country were never really any good. That it was the British that was the sweet little boys of the world. It was the British who were trying to help the poor colonists. They were trying to get them on their feet and show them the ways. And well, these dirty old colonists, they just wouldn't let them. Why can't they just shut the fuck up and sit the fuck down and be like everybody else? Why do they need to get up and be their own people? Is it not fucking obvious to you why they don't want to be that way? Is it not fucking obvious now that your children are being taught in school that the British were the good guys and the Americans, the colonists, they were the bad guys? You flipped it over. And so now, yeah, literally, who wouldn't want to be a good guy? First off, think about it. I want you to really concept this. If you want to really understand it, if these kids are learning this shit today, I want you to fucking put this in your head and really take it into consideration. The colonists at the time were not considered American. I know that's a far-fetched idea, but they weren't. There's a reason why even Americans, when talking in history, do not say the Americans were doing this and the Americans were doing that. It is because, and they don't say the British settlers were doing this and the British settlers were doing that. They were not considered British settlers, nor the way they considered Americans. They were considered one thing, colonists. Now, when you think about that, when you put that in your head, remember that these colonists we speak of, that we're talking about, yeah, those people were not given the courtesy of rights that an English or a Britishman would be given. Colonists were considered colonists. They were not considered Britishmen. They were not considered American. In fact, they were not fucking considered. They were considered a third world country. And the only thing that they were good for was the money and taxes that they sent back to England. Other than that, English didn't give a fuck about them. So, you need to really consider what the fuck you are allowing your children to read and learn in school. Quit using the school as a local daycare for you. The school and the school environment and what your children learn is not a daycare. It's not a daycare camp where your children can just go and be out of sight, out of mind for 8 hours of the fucking day while you go make a living or make a little extra money or get the fuck out of the house whenever you send your child there. If you have to send your child to school and they must go, or you will go to prison or jail time or considered a fine. If this is the case and you're forced to send your children to school, the least you could fucking do is learn what the fuck they're learning about. Incite yourself and kind of take into consideration what the fuck they're learning about so you won't be so fucking stupid as to think your children are being taught something in school that matters and that you're giving them the education that you would like them to have. Really get involved and make sure your children learn something. Quit standing around thinking, well, it must be the cell phones that making them want to, this new wave ideas. They're just different. No, they're not. Kids are kids. If it wasn't the fucking cell phone, it's the Walkman. If it wasn't the Walkman, it was MTV. If it wasn't MTV, it was the jukebox. And if it wasn't jukebox, it was the juke joints. And if it wasn't video games, it was the pinball machines. And if it wasn't pinball machines, it was the fucking pool tables. Second bitch of the day. The fucking people coming over, you fucking hammered on me. You really wanted me to go out. I've been asked 1,000 times. People I know keep talking to me about it. Well, guess what? I'm going to give you my fucking opinion. That's what you want. You're going to get my fucking opinion. You may not like it, but it's going to be my fucking opinion the way it has been described to me. And if I'm wrong, please bring it to my attention. But from my understanding, there is a government in Syria. If I'm not mistaken, there is a government. It is where you stand on government, how government works, what your belief in a government is not debatable for me. In Syria, whether you agree or disagree with that government, do they have a standing government? I believe they do, sir. Do they have rebel forces in their country trying to remove that government? fighting amongst each other. The Syrian government and the rebel forces trying to come in. Is that correct? Because they don't like the government at hand. Is that correct in Syria? So to me, it sounds like these Syrians who are rebel forces are going against the governmental structure in Syria. So that sounds like a civil war to me. It sounds like Syria is having a civil war crisis. If it's a civil war, what the fuck are you doing there anyway? It's none of your... I'm going to give you a piece of advice when it comes to civil war anywhere in the world. No matter where the civil war is located. In my personal opinion, my advice to everybody is this. Mind your own fucking business. Just do that. You mind your own fucking business and you don't have to worry about civil wars. Let them fight it out. Whoever wins, we will then return asking, hey, you know, you still a part of the world global economy? You got some shit you want to sell? We got some shit we want to sell. That's what they did to us. That's what everybody in this world did to the Civil War in America. When America was at civil war, and apparently if you didn't know this, or if you're reading this shit from the textbooks and Common Core, you may not be aware of this, so let me bring you up to par. Prior to a rebel flag, prior to that rebel flag, there was this actual thing called a fucking civil war. And it wasn't the rebel flag. It was an actual war that happened in the United States. And due to the droves of people that died here, the Americans fighting Americans, the North and the South, the Yankees and the rebels, due to all that factor, I want you to do me one big favor before you open your mouth and try to argue with me. Go find me the casualties of the other countries' injuries and deaths. Give me the statistic numbers that show where all these other countries suffered an impact from our civil war. Can you do that? Can you do that? Can you show me the country that ran over here during the Civil War and said, hey, Yankees and rebels, North and South, America, stop fighting. We're here to help. They didn't. Nobody came in. But when the Civil War was over, they magically showed the fuck up with their boats and with their little boats and said, hey, I hear you motherfuckers are still a world economy. We got some shit we want to sell. You got some shit you want to buy? They minded their own fucking business and waited to see who was going to be in control, and then they went and sold them some shit. Why don't you give those motherfuckers in Syria the same courtesy? Mind your own fucking business. You have got your own fucking problems in this country right now. They're teaching your family lies. They're teaching your kids lies. So, why don't you just mind your own fucking business and go back to what you do, which is taking back your country, try to fucking teach your children something about your country other than teaching them something else about somebody else's country. If you can't get your fucking history straight, why the fuck should you be over there fucking with theirs?